On State Street in Bristol, where Tennessee touches Virginia, a silver marker remembers 12 days that changed American music forever. Marker 1A140. It speaks of a record man, a hat warehouse, and 76 songs cut into spinning wax. Because in the summer of 1927, the mountains themselves seemed to empty, everyone walking toward the same address. They came to sing into a strange new machine, hidden behind hanging blankets on the third floor above a hat store. And when the needle finished cutting, country music, as an industry, as an American voice, had a birthplace. This is the story of the Bristol Sessions. Bristol was two cities wearing one downtown. The state line between Tennessee and Virginia ran straight down the middle of State Street. A steel arch of 1,300 light bulbs made the point plain. Bristol, Virginia, Tennessee, a good place to live. Two railroads met here. In the 1920s, Bristol anchored the largest urban pocket in all of Appalachia. And in the hollows beyond the tracks lived families who had carried ballads across an ocean and kept them alive for 200 years. Down in the cities, America was buying music. Victor sold $20 million worth of Victrolas in a single week in 1926. Victor's man for finding new sounds was a sharp-eyed young producer out of Kansas City named Ralph Peer. Peer had done this before. In '23, he recorded Fiddlin' John Carson in Atlanta, the first commercial country record that ever sold. Now he offered Victor a famous bargain. He would work for $1 a year if he kept the song copyrights. He carried something revolutionary, the Western electrical system, a microphone that heard twice what the old acoustic horns could. The old way made singers shout into a metal horn. The new microphone could catch a whisper, a guitar string, a mountain accent. In the summer of '27, Victor staked $60,000 on a southern field trip. Savannah, Charlotte, and a rail town called Bristol. Peer rented the upper floors of the Taylor Christian Hat Company at 408 State Street on the Tennessee side. His engineers hung blankets and old rugs from the walls until the room was dark, muffled, and hot as a barn loft. First through the door was a Virginia carpenter who already knew exactly what a royalty check looked like. Ernest "Pop" Stoneman had cut the Titanic 2 years earlier, a hit big enough to make a mountain carpenter famous. On day one, Stoneman, his wife Hattie, and their neighbors recorded gospel and ballads until the wax ran warm. For the first 3 days, the flow stayed thin. Peer's newspaper advertisements had bought him little more than polite curiosity. Then came the accident, or the masterstroke. The Bristol News Bulletin put the Sessions on its front page. It reported Stoneman's royalties. $3,600 last year, roughly 3 times what an average American family earned. Peer said the story worked like dynamite. By the next morning, the long-distance telephone calls would not stop coming. Singers who had never once left their home counties arrived by bus, by horse and buggy, by train, and on foot. Peer added night sessions just to hear them all. A line of fiddles and guitar cases climbed the warehouse stairs. Peer's wife, Anita, ran the gentler machinery. Paperwork, refreshments, and the art of calming a farm family before a microphone. A Baptist preacher named Alfred Carnes brought a rare harp guitar and sang his congregation's hymns into the microphone. A holiness preacher from Corbin, Ernest Phipps, drove his quartet so hard that some critics hear rock and roll arriving 30 years early. A Kentucky barber, B.F. Shelton, moaned murder ballads so haunting they still raise the hair on your arms a century later. Blind Alfred Reed sang about a train wreck that was barely 9 weeks old. Country music cut fresh as breaking news. A black harmonica man, L. Watson, cut train blues with the White Johnson Brothers, some of America's first integrated country records. A whole church congregation sang anonymously, afraid to put their name on a commercial record. Peer invented one on the spot. The Tennessee Mountaineers. Veteran Henry Witter recorded a fox chase told from the fox's point of view, inarguably the strangest thing cut in Bristol. 9 West Virginia coon hunters were invited. 5 made the trip, and they needed 3 hours to balance 2 songs. 26 miles north, in a fold of Clinch Mountain called Poor Valley, word reached a song-collecting farmer named A.P. Carter. He borrowed his brother's car, the only one in the valley, and paid for it with a promise, 2 days hoeing corn. On July 31st, they set out. A.P., his wife Sarah, her young cousin Maybelle, heavily pregnant, plus a baby and an 8-year-old. The summer heat burst their tires again and again. The rubber patches melted faster than A.P. could press them on. They arrived not as the ragged hill folk of legend, but scrubbed and pressed in their Sunday best, instruments in hand. A.P. Carter, deep-voiced and restless. Sarah with an autoharp. Maybelle, 18 years old, with a Stella guitar and a style all her own. At the audition, Sarah's baby Joe screamed to be fed. Ralph Peer listened straight past the crying. Years later, he remembered the moment exactly. As soon as I heard Sarah's voice, that was it. That evening, they cut Bury Me Under the Weeping Willow. The next day, Single Girl, Married Girl, 6 sides in all. Victor paid $50 a side. The Carters drove back over Clinch Mountain $300 richer. Listen to Maybelle's right hand, melody on the bass strings, rhythm brushed above. The Carter scratch became country guitar itself. Meanwhile, out of Asheville came a tubercular ex-railroad man fronting a dance band, the Jimmie Rodgers Entertainers. Jimmie Rodgers had been a brakeman out of Meridian, Mississippi until his lungs gave out. Music was the only door left open. On the night of August 3rd, the band fought over whose name would go on the record label and walked out on him. Rodgers shrugged. "All right, I'll just sing one myself." On August 4th, he stood alone at the microphone and sang a war ballad and an old lullaby until 11 at night. Peer was unsure what he had heard. He took only the 2 songs, paid Rodgers $100, and packed the wax. On August 5th, it was over. 76 masters in a packed crate bound north. 12 days that would outlive everyone in that room. That fall, Victor's releases reached the catalogs. 69 of the 76 sides went out into the world. The Carters' records sold and sold, 700,000 copies within 3 years. Poor Valley had a sound, and America wanted it. In Camden the next spring, Maybelle's guitar opened Wildwood Flower, a parlor song reborn, on its way to becoming immortal. Rodgers would not wait to be called. Broke and sure of himself, he talked his way into Victor's Camden studio that November. He cut Blue Yodel, T for Texas. It sold roughly 500,000 copies and made him the first country superstar. The singing brakeman toured in tailored suits, recorded with Louis Armstrong, and sold more records for Victor than anyone before Elvis. In May of '33, in a New York studio, he recorded from an easy chair, resting on a cot between the takes. He finished his final song on May 24th. 36 hours later, Jimmie Rodgers was dead at 35. They carried him home to Mississippi by rail, the brakeman's last ride, down the same lines he used to work. The Depression nearly erased the rest. Pop Stoneman lost everything, then climbed back decades later, his children beside him on national television. Maybelle kept playing. In 1972, a new generation gathered around her to record an old Carter song, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? Ralph Peer's $1-a-year gamble grew into a global publishing empire. His royalty model still shapes how artists are paid today. When the Country Music Hall of Fame chose its very first class in '61, Jimmie Rodgers' name was carved first. Victor came back in the fall of '28 and cut 60 more sides. History barely remembers them. Lightning strikes a street only once. The hat warehouse itself is gone, damaged by fire in 1945 and quietly torn down. The music outlived the room it was born in, but Bristol never let the memory fade. It is painted on the walls downtown. Pier, the Carters, the Stonemans, the Singing Brakemen. In 1998, the Congress of the United States made it official, naming Bristol the birthplace of country music. On the Virginia side today stands a Smithsonian-affiliated museum with a radio station broadcasting from inside its walls. Out on State Street, the markers gather like family. Tennessee's silver plaque and Mississippi's first trail stone ever planted beyond its borders. Every September, 45,000 people fill these same blocks for the Rhythm and Roots reunion, singing across a state line. And in 2027, Bristol will mark 100 years since a hat warehouse briefly became the center of American music. Johnny Cash called those 12 days the single most important event in the history of country music. 76 songs, 19 acts, $50 a side, and a circle that has never broken. Thank you for watching Historical Marker Stories. Please like and subscribe for more great content.